Hey, hello guys. So it's still pretty dry here in eastern Kansas, and we've taken these permanent paddocks that we have and splitting them in two. It's probably about 5 or 6 acre paddock, and so we split them in two. You got to be a little creative sometimes to give them shade. It's been pretty hot, and so what we've done here, I don't know if you can tell, is come up here. We're using 2 wires, and then we do this for the corner. See that? And then come around this single tree that's in this permanent paddock. That's the only shade. And then when we move them to the other side here, then we'll pull this on the other side of the tree, and they can have that. So there's still quite a little bit of grass, as you can see. This gives them about, we let them go about 3 days on this side. Depends how big it is, could be 4. So we've got this permanent paddocks here are 2 steel wires and a poly wire on top. I used to have a poly wire here because I just had this for cows, and 1 single poly wire worked fine. But for goats we made it a little more foolproof there. So we put the 2 steel wires with it. We bring then the temporary paddock, 2 polys there, hook it in, and then use a kind of a brace post there, because it'll pull that high tensile a little bit. So we brace it up with another O'Brien step in, and then use a step in there with the parachute cord again. So it's pretty hot today. I'd say low 90s right now. And there was a few under the tree, but I'd say 2/3 of them were out here grazing. Now this paddock here has no shade, but it's supposed to be cooler in the next few days. We'll probably move them into that, take advantage of the cooler weather, and then if we have to move them, if we need to move them back to here, then we can, and they can still have that same tree. This is how we've done the water, so the kids can get adequate water. Inside this tire tank is just a float, a brass. It's a typical brass float you could get at your hardware store, nothing special. But on the end of it, it has pipe thread. So we get an adapter from pipe thread to hose thread. Run this hose out of that and into this tank with a float. Now when you do that, you have to adjust that float so you'll have water from inside the tire tank, see, all the time. Yeah, the dogs like it. Because we found we were losing kids. No matter how much you put blocks in there, we did lots of things, we would still lose a kid once in a while, or a lamb even, inside that tire tank full of water, and they couldn't drink. Some of the little kids couldn't drink very good, and they try to get down in there, and so we just got this tank and do it this way. We're still putting apple cider vinegar in their water, so we'll bring out apple cider vinegar pork. We have a 2.5 gallon jug. There's one. We'll put half of it in the morning and half of it in like in the evening, like now. Well, it's still hot and they're still wanting to drink. And so that's about 2.5 gallons. And I can't remember, I think there's about 300, and just say there's 350 here. So I was thinking that we're trying to get them to drink about a half an ounce a day. A grown cow needs 4 ounces a day. So you can take that by body weight. And I don't know, we just figured 10 goats or sheep per cow. I mean, especially if you got 140 pound cows or even 120 pound cows. And so that'll come out to about right, I think. And nothing's rocket science, but it's pretty close. We don't know who comes up here and gets the most of it at any given time. But this has worked out real well for us. And yeah, these tire tanks, they work good for cattle, and they work good for you know, the goats when there's no kids or lambs on them. But now it's just easier to have this small tank and feed it through that tire tank. And we're still doing the salt mix. You can see this needs to be refilled, but we had to, we were putting 1 bag of bean meal and a bag of salt and a bag of conditioner all in there. Now we've had to go up to 2 bags of bean meal. The 1 bag worked fine back in late spring or early spring, late winter. But once the grass started coming on and they were foraging, they just didn't want to eat it as well. So now we put 2 bags of the bean meal in there, split it up in those 4 tubs there, and we just screwed that down onto some pallets. You know, we got plenty of pallets around, and so the you know, 1 bag of bean meal goes in 2 of those tubs, and the other bag goes in 2, and then a bag of salt gets split up into all 4 of them, and a bag of conditioner gets split up into all 4 of them. And then we put, I think, just a 1/4 bag of some baking soda. It gets split up into all 4 of them, just that 1/4 of a bag. And there's Sally. She's coming along pretty good. She's loving riding in the 4-wheeler. I'm been training her on Livestock. Yeah, she's doing as good as any year-old pup that I've had. So a lot of this grass is over mature, and that's one reason we're wanting to keep the apple cider vinegar in them. It's supposed to help with digesting this high fiber diet that they're getting. Now there is a lot of some are annual, mostly weeds out in there. They'll find those first, but then they'll hit this fescue, and there's some orchard grass. All these cool season grasses are getting over mature, but honestly they're doing fine. Well, I hope cools off and we get some rains predicted later this week, and hope y'all are doing well.